It is way overdue for me to give my staging wall and just the garage in general a little refresh. Everything really needs a good cleaning. I make an absolute mess in my shop while I'm working. And my staging wall is definitely worse for wear. You can see I've got countless nail holes, screw holes from hanging pictures, hanging art on the walls while I'm photographing. And then my baseboards are just completely dinged up. I do try to edit them out of my photos while I'm taking it, but it's gotten to the point where it just is too much. I need to give it a refresh, repaint everything, and give it a new start yet again. I did pick up a different color to paint the walls. I'm gonna give it a go. We'll see. It was a slightly warmer off-white. I'm wondering if these walls, since they are bright white and I have such natural light coming from inside, if they're just a little bit too stark. So I want to give it a try. I'm gonna paint it the off-white color and see if I like the way the furniture is photographing a little bit better. I made quite a mess of my staging wall last week while I was building that little tile table. I knew that I needed to give this section of my shop a refresh, so I wasn't too concerned about it. I'll wipe it and it'll clean all off. So I figured while I give this place a refresh, I could tell you guys a little bit about my backstory. Tell you how I got into this business. It's been a wild ride, very, very non-linear moves. But I had a lot of help along the way, a lot of teachers, I guess you could say. And without support from family, without support from friends, I probably wouldn't be here doing this that I'm doing today. So probably one of the biggest contributing factors to where I am today and how I got into this would be my family. I initially grew up in New England. That's where I spent all of my years until I was about 21 years old. And my parents always worked for themselves growing up. They never worked for anyone else. They always owned their own businesses. Same goes with my grandparents. I'd say those are the two sectors of my family that mostly influenced what I do today, not only in my career, but also in my life. My grandfather and my grandmother have owned hundreds of properties over their lifetime, and he has built multiple houses as well. He was a carpenter, he was an innovator, he was incredibly creative. He built his own furniture. He has such an interesting life story. Both him and my grandmother do. They've been together since she was 16 and I think he was 18. And they're in their 80s now. And so absolutely each other's soulmates. And they're the ones that helped to teach my parents all their handy skills. My dad is an incredible handyman. He has taught me so many of my skills when it comes to renovating houses. He is very mechanically inclined as well. He can fix pretty much any vehicle. He's been doing that for me ever since I had my license. At an early age, going through school, I did know that I had a mind for math and numbers. I really enjoyed math. It came easily to me, I'd say. But on the flip side, I also really loved art. I was really creative. I loved painting. I loved doing all sorts of different things. And taking those two things into consideration, they don't necessarily go hand in hand in a lot of careers. So I did decide to focus on the more numbers heavy side of things. And I decided to go to school for accounting. I graduated with my undergrad degree, and at that point, that's when I decided I would like to pursue my graduate degree, and I moved states, and that's how I ended up in the South. I got my master's in accounting and jumped feet first into a career. I was a tax accountant for about 6 years, I'd say, and I really did enjoy doing that. That career was really fulfilling, and it allowed me to buy my first property. I bought a condo all by myself. I knew at that point that two things were true. Number one, I wanted to buy a more distressed property so that I could renovate it and fix it up myself. And that was pretty much what my wallet could afford at the time. Again, I was a single young woman in a city. I basically wanted to own something that was my own, and that's what I could afford at the time. I am so unbelievably lucky that my parents are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful wealth of knowledge when it comes to real estate and renovations. My mom to this day still has her real estate license, even though she does not practice anymore. She has had that for years and years and years, and is a fantastic resource when it comes to the legalities of real estate. Around this time is when I did meet my husband. When we very first met, he was still in school. He is a mechanical engineer and one of the smartest people that I know personally. We moved in together, and he did not hesitate to get his hands dirty and help me renovate my condo, even though he did not have a whole lot of experience when it came to renovations and things of that nature. Not long after I finished the condo, my then boyfriend was due to graduate soon, and we were at a bit of a crossroads to figure out what next steps we wanted to take in our life. At that time, my parents were living in a different city about an hour and a half away from where we were, and we decided to make the jump and to move to that city. I went ahead and studied and got my real estate license, just like what my mom had, and was planning on growing a business and becoming an active realtor. I took the test, passed that no problem, and dove headfirst into trying to start up my business, which was a challenge in itself, but it was a lot easier having my parents close by. They really helped when it came to encouraging and giving suggestions. We ended up renting a property at the time, and my husband found a job. My husband and I had been dating for about 2 years, a little over 2 years, and we made the decision that we wanted to get married. And 2 weeks later, we went to the courthouse, got the documents, found someone who was ordained to marry people, and went to one of our favorite parks in the city and got married under a big, beautiful oak tree with about 15 of our closest family and friends. My husband started his career as a mechanical engineer, and I continued to work on my business. I was having some success, but to be honest, I loved the actual process of working with my clients to either help them sell their house or find a dream house. That was really exciting and that was really fun. The part that I did not love was the sales part of it, I would say. It just wasn't for me. So I still had my real estate license. I was still practicing, and at that point, I was also working with my dad, helping to renovate and remodel houses. So we had a couple of clients that owned some investment properties, and as tenants would leave and new tenants would come in, we would go in and we would do a make ready on the house, repaint it, refloor it, whatever it might be, to either lease it out, or if they were ultimately wanting to sell it, get it ready to sell. I learned so much by doing that, and I also grew my tool collection. I really enjoyed working with my parents, and I was learning so much at the time, but they ended up moving away to another area, and we stayed in that city that we moved to. He now had his job. I had a little real estate business as well as the refinishing business. And we were finally at a point where we felt like we could buy a little house together. So we scoured the market, found a absolute fixer-upper, and went ahead and purchased it. A funny story, when it comes to real estate, you really have to pivot and just kind of go with the punches. The day that we purchased that house, the other side of the transaction, somebody entered the house right before we closed and signed all of our paperwork, and they were just checking to make sure everything was good, ready for the sale. Don't blame them there. But they left the bathroom vent fan on. And now this bathroom vent fan was probably from the 80s or 90s. It was old, it was dated, it was dirty probably, and it caught on fire. Now, we don't know if it caught on fire before or after we signed, but luckily for us, it was a single story and the fire did not go up into the attic. It came down and it was right over a toilet. So this bathroom vent fan got very, very hot, melted, combusted, dropped into the toilet, shattered the toilet from the heat, and we basically came to a flooded house. Luckily, we were so excited when we closed and got the keys that it did not sit for very long. So we were able to come in, turn the water off, and basically assess the damage. We did already know that we were planning on completely gutting and renovating that bathroom. So it wasn't the biggest deal. What we were more concerned about was, number one, there was no further damage. We called the fire department. They came over, assessed everything, crawled through the attic, and determined that it was from the electrical fan. And there was nothing more we could do. And as these things happen, we were actually planning on going on vacation for a friend's wedding the very next day. We were supposed to fly out. And we both told ourselves there's nothing more that we can do. We shut the power off to the entire house, shut the water off to the entire house, made sure everything was dry, totally fine to leave, and we left and tried not to think about it while we were away. Luckily, it wasn't a huge problem in the end. It was just one of those speed bumps along the way that was a wonderful learning experience. We will never, ever, ever leave a bathroom fan on unattended, and I would suggest you do the same. It did take us a couple years, but we did fully renovate that house. And in that property is where I actually found some YouTube videos of people refinishing furniture for a living. I saw those videos and just absolutely fell down a rabbit hole. I was so intrigued. It looked like such an interesting process. And I learned so much about the painting and prep work and all of that, and realized I had a lot of the tools already at hand. And I did realize I had a lot of additional tools that I could add to a furniture refinishing business. So in the summer of 2020, I found a set of nightstands for free on Facebook Marketplace and grabbed my husband and we went and picked them up. And that was my very first project. I continued to do that for a couple of years in that house, and then we did decide to sell and purchase a slightly larger, slightly nicer house. It was kind of a stepping stone house to begin with, our first one together. And that's where I currently am right now. We've fully refinished this house as well. There are a couple other small projects that we would like to do, but overall it is complete. I still very much do enjoy renovating houses, but I have really enjoyed refinishing furniture as well. It's a much, much quicker process. The turnaround time is days instead of weeks or months or years. But I will be getting back to the home renovations in the very near future. I am pretty excited, but stay tuned on this channel. I will be having some more of the house renovation content coming soon. And with that content will come some new faces as well. am liking this new color that I did pick out. You can see where it meets the white wall. I will probably at some point tape off and create an actual start-stop point because the rest of the walls of my garage are painted bright white. I definitely like this color in person, but I'm gonna have to live with it in photos and see how it plays with the furniture. I did really want to go with something other than just bright white. Well, thank you so much for coming along with me today. That area of my garage was in need of a refresh. It just was dirty, dingy, as you saw. We'll see how the color lasts. Don't be surprised if you see me in a couple weeks with a completely different color on the wall. I'm just trying different things. I get a little sick of the old decor and want to freshen things up. I'm trying to keep things as neutral as possible on that corner, just so that it really lets the furniture be the thing that shines through and not the paint color, not the wall decor, really lets the pieces shine themselves. Thank you so much for sticking along, and I hope that you follow along on my future progress as well.